Hi, I'm Ashley and I'm a second year vet student at St. George's University. And for today's vlog, I'm going to be talking about kind of how the quiz and exam process is at SGU. And if you do have any questions about anything that I cover in this video, please let me know down in the comments. And if you did like this, please be sure to give it a like and subscribe for more videos. So typically for SGU, for each of our classes, we have 2 quizzes, 1 midterm exam and 1 final exam. The shortest exam I've had was only about 20 minutes long, and then I believe I had 1 exam for a final that was around like 2 hours long. So it really depends on kind of what quiz or exam you are taking that determines how long you have. So at SGU, we are required to go to a testing center, and the software that we use is called Exemplify. So if you are going to SGU, you will need to download this program to take your quizzes and exams on. I believe during orientation we got like a whole lecture about how to download Exemplify and how to utilize it, so don't be too worried if you do come here and then realize you don't have the software downloaded. They will teach you that during orientation. So for Exemplify, it's a very specialized program. This program closes everything on your computer and it turns off the Wi-Fi. So there is no options of cheating. So don't even think about doing it. It's not worth losing your position in vet school. So just don't do it. But for Exemplify, the rule is you have to download your exam before you go to the testing center. So typically it's open for about 24 hours. And then once you get there, you have to sign in with your ID card. And then a proctor will make sure that you have your ID and the exam downloaded. So you just want to make sure that you come prepared to the exam sites. At every cubicle in the testing center, you are given a whiteboard, eraser, and an expo marker. But other than that, that is all you are given, and you cannot begin to write on your whiteboard until you've started the test. You also cannot look at any materials when you're in the testing center. You are allowed to go into the testing site within 30 minutes of your exam, but make sure you are in that exam site because the proctors will close the doors at exactly the time that your test or quiz is being taken, and they will not allow you in, and you will end up getting a 0 for that quiz or test. So please make sure to be in the exam room before your exam starts. So once you do get into the testing center, you will be given a password either by a proctor or your professor once it's time to start the exam. You guys all start at the same time, and unfortunately, if your quiz or test doesn't last more than 30 minutes or over, you are not allowed to leave the exam. It's annoying, but they just don't want to disrupt the other students who are trying to finish their exam. So you will have to stay in there for the full 30 minutes. So there are some things that you are not allowed to take into the exam center. So you are not allowed to bring in sunglasses, hats, sweaters with pockets in the front. Watches, you can't have. Cell phones, no. You cannot have any food or water in the testing center either. Sometimes the proctors will allow you to bring in like a clear water bottle, just so you can have some water with you, but sometimes they won't, so it just really depends on the day, and it also depends on how long your quiz and exam is. Some things that you do need for the testing center is the laptop that you download your exam on. It's very important to download that exam before you go into the testing center because it is a big problem if you cannot download the exam. And unfortunately, I've heard of cases where people have gotten a 0 on a quiz because they forgot to download the exam beforehand. So please make sure to download the exam before you go and take your quiz or test. But you can also bring in your laptop charger. You can also bring in an Ethernet cable with your USB adapter if needed. And sometimes, like I said before, you can bring in a clear water bottle. You will also need your student ID to check in and check out of the exam. And the proctors will give you kind of instructions beforehand and then afterwards, so there's really no room for error. So just make sure to listen to the proctors. So I get a lot of questions about if I can go to the bathroom during exams. And the answer is quite simply no in the first 30 minutes. Other than that, you might be able to. It depends on if a proctor is available to make sure you check in and check out of the exam site. And it's kind of difficult, so I would highly suggest using the bathroom before you go in for an exam, because it is not an easy process to get back into the testing center. Once you are done with your exam and everything's been downloaded and you see the green screen, it means that your exam has officially been uploaded and it's available for the professors to see. However, do not click off this screen because the proctors will need to see it as you exit the testing site. They just want to make sure that everything worked out correctly and that the exam was officially uploaded. They just want to make sure your Wi-Fi is also working to upload that exam, so just don't close the green screen until you are told to do so by a proctor. So also, when you are signing out, you will be directed by the proctor to swipe your student ID card again as you exit the facility, and then you also have to sign out on a piece of paper. So you are probably all wondering what happens to your backpacks during this time period that you are in the quiz or exam. So your backpacks and your phones and everything else that you don't need or cannot have in the testing site is right outside the door. Don't worry about your stuff being stolen though, because the proctors are out there and they're just making sure that people are staying quiet, and if anyone's in the bathroom that they get back into their testing facility. And also you just have to leave your bags outside, unfortunately, or you could leave them at home. I know some of my friends and classmates will choose to just leave their bags at home if they can, and then they'll just come to the testing site with their materials. Some recommendations that I have is to download the exam as soon as possible once it's available for download. Just try and do it the day before, like the night before, just to make sure everything's downloaded and you don't have any issues in the morning. And also try and restart your computer at night. I've had a lot of computer issues, and my computer updated during one of the exams and it was very frustrating. So I highly recommend restarting your computer and doing some updates if need be the night before, just so it has time to do those updates. And also download the exam on the laptop that you're using for that day to take the exam, because you can only download it once on your laptop. So just make sure it's the correct computer that you are using. So I always recommend arriving to the testing site early. You don't necessarily have to go into the testing site right away. I usually wait until like 10 minutes before, just so I'm not sitting there doing nothing, because we can't look at our notes or write anything down. So it's kind of nice to be there and at a peace of mind that you are at the right testing center, because you'll notice a lot of your classmates coming and going, and then you can put your bags away just to make sure that they're in a place where you can find them afterwards. So it's always kind of nice just to be there semi-early. Now for this next recommendation, It's just kind of a personal preference, but for myself, I choose not to cram the night before for the material because honestly, I find it impossible to learn all of the material in one night. So I highly suggest against that. Try not to cram if you can. In undergrad it worked for me, but in grad school it does not. Now, before you go to the exam, try and get something to eat because honestly, I find myself just like getting really frustrated during an exam or quiz if I'm hungry. So you might want to eat something beforehand and try to sleep a little bit. I know it's easier said than done. You probably watched some of my other videos where I've done all-nighters before for like a quiz or an exam, and it's not fun. So I would highly recommend getting at least a little bit of sleep. So once you have finished your exam, try not to stress out too much about your scores. And honestly, just remember that it is just one quiz or test in your career. It will not make or break you. Even if you have to decel, it is not the end of the world. Quite a few of my classmates and friends have had to decel, and honestly, they are doing so much better now, and they're learning the material better than I have. So it's kind of like good. I know it's not always like the best scenario, but it does happen that some of us have to decel. But try not to beat yourself up over one grade. And for the grade release at SGU, for quizzes, it takes 2 to 3 days before we get the grades. The professors have to look at it first to make sure that all the questions are fair. But for the midterm exams and final exams, we do not get our grades until 2 to 3 days after our final midterm or final exam. So meaning like if I take a midterm on a Monday and then my last midterm is on that Friday, so I would not get my scores for any of the exams until 2 to 3 days after. So I would probably get the results on like Monday or Tuesday the following week. So that's kind of how SGU does it right now. I don't know if it's going to change once the curriculum changes next year, but for now this is how it is at SGU. But if you do have any questions, like I said before, put it down in the comments below, and I hope you did enjoy this, and I hope it's helpful for those of you who are new or are thinking of coming to SGU. This is just kind of how the exam and quiz process goes at SGU. But I will catch you all on the next vlog.